And
Yeah.
with you were working with immersion set to include all the audio and color resolution for the Blu-ray, especially the quad mix. It's for people that don't know, feel free to explain, the quad mix versus immersion versus Atmos or whatever it's
Right.
for a great album. How difficult, how complex it is to move it to the next stage, 5.1 and immersion,
Yeah.
quad and Atmos and so forth.
Well, each one is a start again process. I mean, the quad mixes were done at the time of the album, so Dark Side or which you were here, and they weren't considered very important, and they were done without the band. And on Dark Side, Alan Parsons did it without the band, and Wish You Were Here, it was just some of the Abbey Road guys did it. I'm not even sure that they'd worked on the album. And they weren't considered important, and nobody from the band paid them any attention. And certainly the Wish You Were Here one has got mistakes on it. It's got wrong stuff wrong. It's not the same as the stereo mix. There's things in there that shouldn't be there. Because you record more than you use, so maybe in one bit there's a piano bit that you don't use or something, you just take it out on the mix, and they didn't get that correct. So there's all sorts of things on it that are weird. And it was released back as there used to be a quadraphonic vinyl format. It didn't work very well. But I mean, it was a real minor thing, and nobody took much notice at that time. And hardly anybody had quad systems, and the quad stuff sold very little at the time. So in some ways, it's almost just a sort of historical reference to put them on in these box sets, in the immersion things. And it's just, from our point of view, it's nothing. It's just a transfer. We just transfer. It was on analog tape, and it's just a transfer to digital for the box set. And then any 5.1 or more recently Dolby Atmos mixes are started from scratch by us, by me or James for the ones he did. And the two things have got nothing to do with each other, really. The original quad mixes and later 5.1 mixes are completely separate things done by different people at different times. And certainly because for us, for any 5.1 mixes I did or James did, we are much more careful about referencing the original material and trying to make it the same. If it's albums the albums that I recorded anyway and then did the surround mixes of, Division Bell was done separately later, but any others later stuff, you just do it at the same time. So you do the stereo mix, and then once that's finalized, you just immediately you can get back to where you were, because it's all memorizable now on mixing consoles and things. So you just put it back up and make a surround from it. So it's a slightly different process. But yeah, the older stuff, it is what it is, and it's just, how what do you do on it? Nothing really, or just do a bit of mastering on it really and assemble it. And then there's some surround mixes of whatever, some of the older stuff that you just start again and try and get it to have the same balances and the same spirit as the original stereo, really. There's a lot to do, but most of it's fairly mundane. It's just assembling things.
Really?
And, yeah. So those box sets, apart from doing the surround mixes, it's just assembling stuff, really. Bit of mastering, but
I have I'm very lucky that here at home, not in this room, but upstairs in the other room, I have Atmos 5.1 surround and all this stuff, and although it's very expensive and was difficult to put it together, it's a big difference. And on one hand, see a guy like you or Steven Wilson, right, go back and remaster this, remaster that, and on the other hand, I know that a lot of people don't have the money to spend, I don't know, $3,000 or whatever money to set up an Atmos or immersing equipment to because they don't have the money to do it. And people nowadays, many cars here in the US don't have CD players, right? So people end up using MP3s or listen to Spotify all the time, right? So it's a big difference to be the MP3, Spotify, or Bandcamp in the car, or versus the 5.1, the immersion, the surround, the Atmos. It's a world different, and of course, I don't know, financial reason, time reason, where you people don't draw the line, right? So you can, like you, right? You can see picture of boats and then have enough money and get a sailing boat and then sailing during the weekend, and you have a lot of pleasure, satisfaction and stuff. For me, the music is the same, right? I see a big difference between Atmos, 5.1, surround, quadraphonic, and so on and so forth. Right? And but 95% of the people, they cannot experience that. Where you think where you think, because it's costly to hire somebody. I don't know, I want to make something up, right? So people don't buy CDs anymore, and vinyls are all going on sale, but not everybody have a turntable, and creating an Atmos remix is very expensive to do, and probably 3-5% of the population will enjoy that, right? For crazy people like me that really like music, right? But
the
rest, they don't care. They listen to an MP3 in the car, right? And they're fine with it, So where to draw the line is that kind of thing.
Well, if we make a surround an Atmos mix or something, and enough people want to buy it, then it makes sense to do it. And it's just giving people what they want, really. And as you say, 95% of people are just going to listen to it on Spotify. And it's like, that's okay too. And I do. It's not as if I don't listen to stuff on Spotify, And actually, this sounds really weird, but since stopping doing so much, that I stopped all the mastering stuff, and I haven't, the Floyd stuff has been really, really quiet for a few years. It's been like turning down the dial for me about how intensely I study and listen to music. And it's actually been a great liberation, because I can stick Spotify on and listen to, Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust or something, and just like the music and not take any notice of how it sounds. And it's been great to wind the clock back 50 years and just like be that teenager again and just go, oh, I love this. This is great, just like the songs. So it's difficult for me. I can't have a neutral viewpoint on this. And I certainly don't want to get kind of holy about it and disparage that people are listening to it on rubbish systems, listening, using Spotify and listening on a little Amazon speaker or something. It's like, well, you're enjoying the music, so there we go. And that's what matters. I mean, it's the same as watching a film on an iPhone. I mean, I'm sure the director gets really bothered about the fact you're watching a film on an iPhone, but it's just like you're watching a story. You're enjoying the story, and maybe that's what really matters. Not Nigel Goodrich, the guy who does Radiohead, and he did some stuff with Roger, I think, as well. He hates surround. He says the best format is mono, because then it's one thing. He says, I'll just about tolerate stereo, but he won't do surround. And I think that's a really interesting attitude. It's just like, mono, then it's one thing, and it's just this thing called music that's coming from one place.
That's true. Yes.
I get it. I like. I love surround personally.
Mm.
You know, listen to stuff in surround and listen to stereo going. It's a bit disappointing, but I really like to be able to turn that off as well and just.
So are you really able to turn that off when you are cooking at home and you put Spotify in the background?
Yeah.
You don't have the recording engineer hat and say, man, the guitar doesn't sound well, or no. Could it be lower or upper or what?
No, it's great. I do. Me and a bunch of friends get together. We do it, well, tonight, in fact, we get together, we play poker.
All right.
And we just have I've got a sort of 20-hour playlist of just all the stuff we grew up with. Right. A bunch of old guys, David Bowie and stuff like that, Stones and things. And it's great. And we all just sing along, it's terrific. So yeah, and that's
fine. Yeah.
Music for a situation. Well, it's a version, that thing that Brian Eno got into about music for environment. So the music for airports and things like that. So
that's right. Yeah, right.
The music, it can exist in its pure form, or it can exist within a context. I mean, he was making an extreme version of that, which is, music to play in the background while you're doing something else. Music for ironing, and it's the same thing. I mean, so my playlist of David Bowie and the Stones and Small Faces and all that kind of stuff is music for a bunch of old guys playing poker, and it's great. So it's got and we're not intently listening to the music. We're intently playing poker and chatting, But then the music's there, and it's just it's like a beer, it's musical beer in that situation. So it's and then there's sitting down and listening to music intently and completely absorbing it. So that it's like what you could say with food. I mean, maybe you go to a fantastic restaurant with incredible flavors and you really, really pay attention to the food, or maybe you have cheese on toast, and while you're watching TV, and that's great too. So sometimes music is cheese on toast.
That's right. Sometimes music is. Oh, that's a good name for an album. You should.
Yeah, cheese on toast. Yeah. That's all right. I'll write that.
Write it down. I want to send you a list of
music for cheese on toast. It's the new Brian Eno album. Yeah,
that's right. Maybe you should register the name, so so nobody will take the idea from you. Write it down, man.
Yeah, too late. Already gone.
And the Momentary Lapse of Reason was the first Pink Floyd album that to be recorded digitally, right? That correct? Or
yes, it was an in between technology of digital tape rather than digital in a computer. So it was still like a tape machine, but it was digital. And it was Bob Ezrin. Bob always, at the beginning of an album, he tried to sort of have a mission statement, if you like. And what he was saying is, we've got to be right on the cutting edge of what's new. And one of the things that was new was this technology. So, so we did it that way. I'm not, I don't think it was better for it, to be honest. It's not a great format. It's very antiquated now. Nobody would, and it's not as if you had the advantages that if you were working in a computer or something, you could, you've got all the editing possibilities and things like that. You didn't have that, so it was only the same as working on tape anyway. It wasn't really that different. I don't think it was particularly a contributing factor to anything about the album. I mean, except very slightly about how it sounded, really. So
you received a Grammy nomination for the best engineered recording, the non-classical Pink Floyd. It was in 1988. What your thought about that when you were nominated for that?
Well, it's very nice. I mean, there's been 3 now. Yeah, so that one and Division Bell and surround mix of Division Bell as well.
That's right. Yeah.
3 times. I mean, each one is less exciting. So I didn't win any of them. It's nice, but yeah.
They send you like a letter or something that you were doing.
No, I've got it. I don't even know where they are. I've got a little frame.
You don't have a frame somewhere in the house? Come on, man.
Maybe in a box in the cellar, in the basement. I don't know. No, I don't. No, I don't care. But yeah.
Oh, I do care.
Yeah.
Hey, when I see you next time in London, maybe I will buy you some frames. If one day you want to get rid of that, I will have it a place to put it somewhere.
I wouldn't have thrown it away. I've got it somewhere. But I don't know.
And I mean, will the momentary lapse of reason will be at first, remix, put an inversion box. I mean, some bands are going back, 5.1, let's do it, surround, this and this, and some bands that they don't care about remixing and they're going back to the bath and re-releasing. And it's not that Pink Floyd need the money, right, to keep.
No, sure. Well, with that album, like I said, we tried to be very current with it when we did it. We tried to be, but that of course puts a big timestamp on it that says this album was made in 1985 or whatever it was, 86, because it sounds like it. Whereas no other Pink Floyd album particularly sounds like it was done at any particular time. They just sort of sound timeless. And more recently, David regretted that decision and wished we hadn't done that.
Really?
They wished we hadn't made it really 80s sounding. So he'd always intended with the idea of, maybe we should revisit that album and redo some stuff to make it less 80s sounding. So when that Immersion, the box set, was going to be done, that was the opportunity to do it. So we did. So we recorded some new stuff, new drums, replaced some things, missed some stuff out, and took a different approach to it really. And so some new recording and a new mix to try and make it sound less 80s, which it does. I mean, I think it's much better. It still sounds somewhat 80s, but unless you're going to redo everything, which you're not going to. But yeah, we'd started the project quite a long time before. We'd done the new drums with Nick a few years back before that, and then kind of forgotten about it. And then, in some ways, these things are very often driven by what's going to be released, and that's usually driven by people like the management rather than the band. Rather than the band say we should do a box set of all the early year stuff, the management come up with this idea. It's just like, this is, we could do this and make product that would sell, and the band say, oh, okay, all right. So it's sort of driven the other way around, really. It's a sort of, it sounds very cynical, but that's the way that things work. Originally it's a sort of business decision, really, rather than a creative decision. But having made the business decision, then you try to make it make creative sense.
And when working with Roger or David Gilmour nowadays, you have a lot of freedom to do remix the way you want it to sound, or you once a week you get together with David Gilmour, send file back and forth. Do you like this? I try this. I change this, or kind of they trust you in show them the final product, the final output.
Well, I mean, it's changed over the years. So originally, it absolutely would have been, you sat down together and did it from scratch.
Yeah.
But now, no, it's very much. And again, a lot of it's because of technology, because it's all a computer. That essentially I would do it, and then send it to David, and he would say something he want changed, and then right at the end we'd sit down together and go through it, and he would make any changes he wants to, because sometimes it's not, he'll have a very particular notion about his own, like his guitar or his voice, about sitting there and which notes he wants to push up, which notes he wants to make louder and quieter, and it's like, he can't methodically explain that to me. It's much easier just to give him a fader and he can do it, kind of thing. So we just do that, and we'll spend however long it takes, a few hours on each song, and just get them where he wants them, and then that's that. So so largely these days it's the same with any of the surround mixes that James does. That it's largely he does it, and then there's feedback, and if things get changed for what's wanted. But we've been working together for I don't know. Actually,
50 years.
40 years now. It's 40 years. Yeah, it's 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, because 83, I think it was, I started. I think. So I think we've developed a decent working relationship now, and I know what he wants, and he trusts me. So it's all very straightforward. It's all very straightforward, really.
Perfect. Yeah. Please explain the difference between the programs like the Pro Tools versus mixing console. It's difficult to learn all the Pro Tools, or
no, well, each people have their own opinions about that. I mean, James still does it the other way because that's what he prefers. I don't. I like it. To me, I think I can get better results doing it the way that it's done now. But there we go. Each their own, and people disagree about that stuff. And
I
mean, I don't think anyone but us could tell the difference. To be honest, there is that, and it's still the person doing it makes far more difference than anything else. And I really think that almost no one, including people in the business, other engineers, I think, if you play them two things and you say one of them's done one way and one of them's done the other way, which one's which? I don't think they'd be able to tell, to be honest.
Really? Wow.
Maybe, but I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, there was a point in the technology where it took another leap forward, and I do with Damon, who I've mentioned, who works for David. We sat down and did a test, and we put together a mix one way and then recreated it the other way. So they should sound the same except for the technology used, and then we listen to them, switching between the two. And the way we do it is one of us will do the switching and the other one's listening, and you don't know which one's which. They don't tell you. It's like, okay, here's mix one, here's mix two, and you don't know which one's which. It's like, what do you think? And it's just like, okay, or and we both just about preferred the new technology one. So it's like, okay, well, let's just do that then. And I mean, in terms of working logistics, it's a million times better. You can control so much more, and it's brilliant. I mean, essentially, providing we've got the same files to start with, can literally email a mix session between, I can just send an email, a mix to David, email a mix session, and there it is on his computer. So, in terms of its portability, it's brilliant. And you just, you're going somewhere and all you need is a memory stick, kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
Well, you don't for the audio, because that's actually, you probably could do it. We probably could do it with the memory sticks are big enough now. You probably could fit a song on a memory stick, but it's many gigabytes. But so are memory sticks these days. So.
You mentioned something interesting. The tapes obviously used to be the tapes. Degrade over time. The hard drive could fail. and so forth, where they gotta be. I imagine that there gotta be a storage facility where all the stuff will go just in case, right? The boat may get on fire, the hard drive,
they're not at the boat. They're not at the boat. No, there is a storage facility, but
there's a storage facility where all the stuff is.
That costs money to maintain, and I mean, we're willing to do that, but a lot of stuff does get lost. The people don't look after it, and it just or physically lost. That you can imagine a big record company, Warner Brothers or something. I mean, their warehousing is huge for stuff, and it's just somebody delivers an album, and it's it's one removable hard disk. That's the album.
Yeah.
Something that's a few inches big. And it's like, that's got to be catalogued and libraried. And it's just like, and it falls down the back of the shelf and no one can find it. And that's it. That's an album lost. And incredible amounts of stuff has been lost. Huge amounts of stuff has been, not because it's really old, but, newer stuff is lost. When they used to hire out Astoria to commercial studios, they would get phone calls like 2 years later saying, have you got a copy of it all? Because we can't find it. It's like, no, we don't have a copy. It's like, you wouldn't pay us to make the copy. And that's the other thing. The record company won't pay for this stuff to be sensibly libraried and have multiple copies of it, things like that. They're not willing to pay for that. And then they're upset when it gets lost. It's like, well, it's your fault, So huge amounts of stuff is lost.
Yeah, I suppose the same will be like a big library, right? Where it's 1 million books, right? If you go to in Oxford or Cambridge, those famous schools, they have, or here Harvard University, they have millions of books. Library. Some of them are both. You can check them out. Some of them you cannot touch. You go to a special room. Where you only can see with your gloves, whatever, if you're a famous person or a researcher. But some stuff gets misplaced, and it's hard to find a book within 1 million books, right? So it's not like you have like a GPS device attached where if you move it from shelf 4 to, another room will, beep you to see where they are.
Absolutely. It's, or...
And some stuff got stolen, I suppose, too, so...
Yeah, or, there was, whoever it was, Universal or something, I mean, they had place burned down and incredible amounts of stuff.
That's right, yeah. My God, man.
So, yeah.
Where do you... Yeah.
Well, there again, depends if you're trying to change, if how much you're attached to ideas of permanence. And none of us are permanent, so there we go.
Yeah. And the division bell was done analog this time around, right? Yeah, so they went from a digital to analog and so forth. What was the reason, I suppose?
Well, I think it was with the sense that Momentary Lapse had sounded dated by then.
Yeah.
So let's not make that mistake again. So let's make an album that sounds timeless classic in terms of its sound. So it was a return to doing it the previous way, really. So it was analog tape, and a lot of the approaches were done much more like the old way. So including writing it. So that they got together and jammed and worked stuff out like they always used to do. Which is where some of the recordings that eventually turned up on Endless River came from just them jamming. So it was a very deliberate return to the way that they used to do it, because they tried, something else was tried and didn't work out so well, so went back. So they went back to analog tape.
And for the Division Bell, you were nominated for the Best Engineered Album, as well as the Best Surround Sound Album. Wow, impressive, man.
Well,
You're a very humble guy, but for me, it's very.
It helps when you're doing. You could do stuff that that nobody heard, and then it wouldn't happen. So it does help, that you're working with a big band. It's nice, but yeah, I try not to take any notice.
You were, I think, you were part of the reissue campaign on the I think it was 2016. A box set the early year, right, from 65 to would have been 72, I think, right? Yeah, so yeah, wow, every so often I go to Amazon or Surround Sound and all the other places that I buy music from, and a new box set for Pink Floyd 65 to 73 or 72 to 76. The Genesis are doing the same thing. It's great to have this stuff. I don't know.
Some people like to want the completest thing, they want everything, so it gives them that. In fact, ironically, since we did that, lots of people said, "Oh, we've got recordings that you don't have," and it's like it's too late now. So, bootleggers or stuff recorded from the radio or whatever, oh well.
Oh, there are many bootleg copies of Genesis, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. There's probably 1 million, around the world in the eBay or Discog or this or that. Other people exchange music. I don't know if bands do like. I suppose that if it's within fan, doesn't exchange money for it to a certain extent, I think it's okay. But when you put some stuff on eBay, right, and they, some Johnny sell the stuff to you and Johnny make money and the band doesn't make any penny, then when they get nervous and say, no, why you sell that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well,
those are kind of illegal, I suppose, right?
Yeah, well, we had to deal with a bunch of that recently.
Yeah.
All sorts of bootlegs that had been got to by the record company, and we had to do transfers of that. So I had to do some of that just because of doing vinyl transfers. And I do have to say, most of it is the quality is so bad. I can't believe anyone wants to buy it. It's just
so some of the quality are very bad. It's but there are crazy fans out there. They want to have everything of everything.
Well, then hooray, they've got it now. So there we go. So that's good.
My understanding is that you saw Pink Floyd perform The Dark Side of the Moon.
That's right, yeah.
In 74, you were 15 years old. How you got there? That took you, or?
Yeah. I just going to see them live, and went to the Empire Pool, Wembley, as it was called at the time, where they were playing. It's Wembley Arena now, and that's. Then many decades later, I ended up mixing that gig. That's the one that's come out on the current Dark Side reissue, which was quite strange. It's the only time I ever saw them as a fan rather than working for them. So quite amusing, the fact that I ended up mixing it. That was a nice sort of full cycle. Can we pause a sec?
No problem. Yeah. All right. So we're talking about the album, and then you seen in Pink Floyd in 1974. I know you're a humble guy, but you ever, some days you look back and in your life now, man, you were 15, you saw Pink Floyd, and then down the road, down the years, you end up working with them. Wow, that's amazing, man, if you think about it,
yeah, sure. And it's been great. It's been a fantastic thing to do. It's still a job. Some days you wake up and you think, oh, it's Monday and I don't fancy going to work, same as anybody else. But that's a comparative thing. And it's been a brilliant thing to do. And got to do things I like and got to do some extraordinary things, things on a scale that most people don't do. But I think in some ways for whatever reason, I think it's just in my nature anyway. I don't tend to look back. I tend to look forwards always. I think it's just in my nature. So there is an extent, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, oh, you work with Pink Floyd. It's like, yeah, I did. But, you know, it's like, but what about this? This is what I'm doing now, and that's much more interesting to me. And that's sort of genuinely the case. So it's been an amazing way to spend 40 years, but I don't really think about it very much, and I'm far more interested in what I'm doing today, what I'm doing tomorrow, kind of thing. So
yeah. For me, I have, like I told you before, I have a huge music collection, and my top 3 bands in the history of music, according to me, are probably Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, and Genesis with Peter Gabriel. And I never saw. I was living at the time in Latin America. I was born in Chile, so I never saw. I have seen different variation, right? So I've seen Roger Waters, David Gilmour by themselves, some of the Led Zeppelin guy by themselves, many times the Genesis guy by themselves, Peter Gabriel, but never saw them as a band. And I will die to, if I allow me to go back in time and see a show, the one when you were 15-year-old in 1974 would have been great, but of course it's not going to happen.
There was another one when I was about 15 or thereabouts, and Melody Maker, which was the magazine, newspaper that came out, music thing, and every year they had a poll, a readers' poll about best band, best album, best bass player, best this, best that. And they would then arrange a gig with a lot of the winners of things. And I went to one of those. And I didn't know Genesis at all then. And Genesis played with Peter doing Foxtrot.
Wow!
Peter coming out on stage with the fox head on and things like that.
That's right, the fox head, yeah.
What is this? This is amazing. I've got to find out about this. What's this music? Yeah. What's this strange and wonderful music? So I did see Genesis with Peter that time, and I saw them later without Peter.
Yeah,
roundabout, trick of the tail, time to time.
Yeah,
but that was amazing seeing them and not knowing anything about them. That was and it's like extraordinary music, which was also new to me. So I got to experience that one.
Yeah, wow, good for you, man. I wish one day somebody, scientists figured out that we need to go back in time and experience this stuff. Maybe one day, maybe I'm not going to be around, but maybe it's crazy. Yeah, but with the AI and all the technology and ChatGPT and so forth, hey, maybe you can bring, recreate Peter Gabriel at home, so I wouldn't have to go to shows,
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I've not seen it, and nor am I likely to. But the thing the ABBA are doing with that's apparently very good, and it's a shame that I think the moment's gone. If Floyd were 10 years younger, we might do that. We could do that, something like that. We could do a virtual Pink Floyd thing, and I think that could be really interesting. And that sort of stuff's only going to get better. I mean, with the way that the AI is ramping up and accelerating, I mean, those sort of virtual experiences are going to become phenomenal and indistinguishable from reality. Some very interesting possibilities there, or a nightmare. Who knows?
Or a nightmare, yeah, or with the deep fake, but I don't know. It's a lot of controversy here in the United States nowadays about
sure, absolutely.
AI is good, AI is not good. Robots are coming. People are going to be losing their jobs. Some jobs are okay, but it's who am I to decide what is good for them? Maybe we are doomed. Maybe we'll be, maybe robots will take over our society one day, and then I don't know, something happens.
Yeah, I mean, because I sort of no, let's not go into that. Let's not have that conversation.
That's right. Yeah. We need to drink a cup of beer before we go there.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere, I read somewhere that Animals is your favorite album. Is that correct?
Yeah, probably. I like
Fair to
animals.
say?
Yeah, I mean, there's the big three: Dark Side, Wish You Were Here, Animals. I think
Yeah.
that's the peak for me. And they're wonderful albums. They really are. And I mean, I say Animals, but they're all great. Those three. Even Dark Side, it's incredibly familiar, but then sometimes you hear it, and you think, "Damn, that's good."
Yeah.
Just I know it. I know all that stuff inside out and backwards, but they're great. So I really like David's playing on Animals. It's really, he calls it their punk album, and I think he plays differently on Animals to any other album. He plays with a real aggression on that album. I think that's really interesting.
I know we talk a lot about David Gilmour, Roy. What about you have any memories or comments on a high level, of course, right? But Sid Barrett and Richard Wright or Nick Mason.
Well, Sid, I never met Sid. Never met Sid. I don't know anything about Sid. Something that a lot of people don't know about Nick is how funny he is.
Really? Yeah.
He's really, really funny. He always makes you laugh. Very, very good sense of humour. And I don't mean telling jokes. He's really, they're all, I've always said this, they're four extremely intelligent people. Their combined IQ is enormous for Roger, David, Rick, Nick. And unlike any other band I've worked with, really. So I always thought if I did. Do you have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire in America?
Yeah,
yeah. So there's that thing, phone a friend. I always thought David would be my phone a friend because he's just so knowledgeable.
Really?
And, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I mean that's the sort of overwhelming thing about those guys. It's just how smart they are, really. Rick, I never knew that well. He was always he wasn't involved when I started because he'd gone by then, and he came back for Division Bell. But it's not like he was there every day. He'd just come and do his parts. So I never really got to know him very well. We toured together, but you don't see the band that much when you're touring. You see them on the plane, and that's about it, really. So I didn't really know him terribly well.
Do you think in inappropriate question in general terms, do you think ever that Roger and David will make peace one day and then do a gig for charity? It's a local hospital in. I don't know, in London, can the two of you play together for 2 hours and we'll collect money to go to a charity or whatever, something?
Well, I mean, that's why Live Aid happened, but that was quite some time ago, really.
Yeah.
Whenever it was it 2005? Yeah, 2005.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the last time I saw Roger, and judging by the relationship at the moment, I wouldn't have thought so, really. It's not very like it. It's sort of pretty sour, so... Mm-hmm. And it seems to do that. It gets really sour, and then for some reason there's some change, and they think they can get along, and then they don't.
Well, maybe they don't. Yeah. And actually, Roger Waters now it's going to be touring in South America. I think he's going Uruguay in November, then going Argentina, Chile, and Chile. So he's going to be making. Some money down there in Latin America. People go crazy for anything Pink Floyd or anything Genesis related or Led Zeppelin or Gone, Camel or
I know
any bands like that. They will people pay any willing to pay any kind of money. So
no, I remember I didn't do the tour, but when David toured last time, they did South America, and everyone there was saying that. Yeah, South America was a blast. They were just crazy about it, and they
are crazy about it. You're absolutely right.
Stadiums, and I know, quite a thing.
And of course, the income per capita is lower in South America than there is in the UK or the US, but I don't know, people are willing to pay whatever. They put a credit card at 300, 400, 500, 600, whatever the price is, of course, to a certain limit, right?
Yeah.
People are willing to pay the stuff to see them. So it's for a band, they can make very good money down there touring in Latin America. So.
Well, also just, if you're in a band and you're playing live, you kind of, a lot of it is just that thing of just, you've got all those people out there just love you, kind of thing. And that's really
absolutely for an ego thing,
an ego. Well, and just, feel the love, Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting that Roger keeps wanting to play live. And, I'm sure it's not just, he didn't need the money. So he just must like doing it. So, I don't know. I mean, like I say, I haven't seen Roger since we did Live 8. So, no idea what makes him tick these days.
Yeah, and like you say, the ego boost, seeing some 50,000 people, or screaming for you, I suppose. And although you don't need the money, but having the exposure to bring music to different part of the world, like Genesis, for example. Genesis only played in Brazil a couple times or 3 times, I think. He never played in Chile and Argentina. People are, as I said, were at the time were willing to pay any kind of money to see. As far as any David Gilmour touring down the road that you could share. No.
Well, there's nothing in store. I mean, he continues to work. He continues to work on music. He's still, writing and things, but what and when, I have no idea really. In theory, he's working on an album, but quite.
He goes slow pace. That's what.
Yeah. I mean, and you can always.
I was dissing.
Changing things forever, So.
That's right. Roy Water, A-type personality. Okay, let's get it down there. And David Gilmour, Philman, I was telling. So how long does it take for David Gilmour to put an album together? It might take a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years. But can he do at least a track a month? And no, sometimes it doesn't. So it's very, very.
It's not. Yeah, no, they're not worked on in sequence. They're sort of.
That's right. Yeah.
It's this kind of soup of music, and gradually, it's kind of like gradually continents form in the sea.
Right.
So
they will. Well, hopefully, will. Well, I have seen Roger Waters many times, and David the only one. So, and Nick Bass, I have seen him several times here. So hopefully, I will see David Gilmour again one day, and eventually they want to retire, and they have all the time, all the right to be retired, and fans need to go away and then let them, enjoy their life, enjoy their money, or whatever. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, retire is a very hard boundary, and it doesn't necessarily work like that. So. I don't really say, like say Nick. I mean, I think Nick's really, really enjoying doing the Source for the Secrets.
That's right. Yeah.
He just likes doing it. He just, it's like, do some gigs. It's great, And
hopefully, I will be able to meet them, any of them. One day in my life before my time is up in this place of the world. So, hey, Andy, it was very nice talking to you again, man. Quite sure we'll do another, another part 3 down the road. Enjoy your time tonight with your friends, your buddy playing poker, and next time we'll need to talk about sailing and boats and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's quite. I'll tell you why I sail. That's Rick Wright. When we were doing the Division Bell tour, what turned into Pulse, we had a day off in St. Petersburg in Florida, Tampa Bay, and Rick borrowed a boat and said, "Who wants to go out?" A little dinghy, a little catamaran. Who wants to go out? And I went out with Rick on this, 14-foot boat, and I thought, this is just perfect. I love this. And I thought, I've got to do this again, and then forgot about it for 30 years until I eventually picked it up, and it was. With work being much quieter and things, I thought, well, what am I going to do with myself? Well, about time to pick up that thing of sailing. So this is only like 2 years ago. So I went and learned to sail and bought a little dinghy and just going, I'm no good.
But you enjoy it. Doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I end up in the water far too much, but yeah, it's great. It really is.
You enjoy your life.
Yeah.
That's what life is about, right? You're getting old, you gotta, whatever, enjoy your life. Well, who knows how long we have in this era before AI take over and
Yeah, exactly. AI sailing experience. Yes.
All right, Andy, thank you very much again for your time, and
Pleasure.
we'll talk very soon, and hope to see you in London one day. We'll play poker, or
Yeah.
get a beer or have to dinner, man. We'll get together or something.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Take it easy,
All right.
Andy. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have fun tonight, man.
Thank you.